we got the camera fixed, so I'm excited right now. Number two, this is going to trigger the shit out of some people, piss you off, make your blood boil. I just want you guys to have a full heads up, full understanding of what we're about to get into here. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm surprised YouTube's letting me go horizontal, which sounds weird, especially with the conversation we're about to have, but make sure you guys can hear me. Somebody just say yes, or Trump 2024, or F Tim Walz, or, you know, F Kamala Harris, something, so I know you guys can hear me. Perfect. Self-love says I hear you. Perfect. Listen, yesterday was a very, very, very difficult day, and let me explain why. I was in a vehicle for almost 9 hours and could not get here to you on YouTube to have the conversation that we need to have. I've literally been vibrating, like my whole body feels like it's vibrating for the last 12 to 15 hours because of the information that is coming out about Tim Walz that none of us are going to be surprised about. Not a single person is going to go, no, I never would have expected. We're all going to know that this is true. Before we jump into anything, I want to remind every single person here, number one, these conversations must be had. Not having these conversations is why things like this happen and why things could get worse if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are voted into office, okay? Number two, I want you to remember that this is a safe space. If you, depending on the comments you put through, YouTube may hold some stuff, but we're gonna have an open conversation here about what is exactly is going on as we go along, because there's going to be more than just today's conversation. Some of this may have to go over to Patreon, Rumble, X, something else, because YouTube does like to censor things. We're going to push this as far as we possibly humanly can before YouTube tries to shut me up and shut me down, because this is a conversation we have to have. But Kamala Harris, and, oh, it has a crackle. Maybe it's because I'm yelling at it. That might have something to do with it. Let me, is it better? The sound is bad. Look. This is what happens with these new microphones. It's fully, I wonder if I can change. Hold on. I know you guys say you can hear me. I wonder if I switch microphones. Or we just take the microphone out. Y'all don't leave. Just 2 seconds. Just wait. Go nowhere. Let's try this. Put this one back up. Does that help anything at all? Like, is that better? Moving over to this one? Okay, so we're good? Okay, cool. So listen, this is what I want to remind people of. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have been pushing their campaign in the beginning. I don't know if you guys remember this, because first off, they talked about Joy, and then Joy went away, and now it's a whole new thing. But in the very beginning, when they were really big on abortion, really big on trans rights, really big on LGBTQIA plus everything, they were also very big on believing the victims. And I need people to remember this at this point in time. Everything was about believe the victim no matter what. The victim should always be believed. Anybody that comes forward should be believed, and everything else. I know you remember this in the very beginning of this Kamala Harris campaign. It was about believe the victim. Now, there have been numerous victims in the Kamala Harris campaign that have stepped forward, and Kamala Harris campaign is extremely silent about. You know, Doug Emhoff's pregnant nanny who had to get an abortion because he threatened her, right? So that's one victim that they decided to just try to shut up about and not mention. Then we have Doug Emhoff slapping an ex-girlfriend. They're not talking about that. Do we not believe that victim? And now we have Tim Walz with victims speaking out that say when he was a teacher in Nebraska that he was all, you think my necklace? Oh, let's go that way. Yo, look, F it, hold on. Just gonna yell at the phone. I know it's gonna be a little bit softer now, but can you guys hear me okay? Let's go this way, because this might be the best option. Can you hear me this way? If the mic is gone. Is this better? It could just be the phone. It could be whatever. It's not my voice. My voice is not scratchy today. I know it's not me. Okay. I don't even know what to do with this. Too low, still crackling. I think it's because of the conversation. They don't want us to have this conversation. Look, please put the mic on. It's the phone. Okay. This is the last time we can try this, because if this doesn't work, then this is going to be as far as I can go with this. Let's try this again and see what happens. Holding the microphone is not an option because y'all know I use my hands way too much to talk. I must have, you know what? It is what it is. It's the phone or it's YouTube. F it. It'll be fine. You guys understand what's happening. Okay, so here we go. There's people coming out saying that Tim Walz sexually assaulted them while he was a teacher in Nebraska. And this has come out over the last few hours, started yesterday. But if you remember, we talked about this possibility probably 2 months ago when we started talking about Tim Walz after he was picked, and I was like, that means Josh Shapiro said no, because there's no way they would have picked Tim Walz. There's nothing sane about that man. He's just creepy beyond all belief. I said, Josh Shapiro turned him down. He knew it was a bad idea. So they picked Tim Walz at the last second. They did not vet Tim Walz. They did not look into his history. They did not look through anything to make sure that he's not a sick individual, right? So it turns out that while he was a teacher in Nebraska, we talked about it again a couple months ago. I'm just giving you a little backstory here, that he started some anti-gay bullying club is what he called it. Anti-bullying gay club, something along those lines. And it was supposed to be so that gay students and straight students could figure out how to coexist together, because I'm sure that was such a big deal, 30 years ago. I don't really think it was that big a deal 30 years ago. I don't know that many people who were out of the closet or who were willing to come out 30 years ago also. But either way, he started this club. And a lot of people came through and said that during this club, he wouldn't let straight people in. It was supposed to be a straight, queer, joint club so they could figure out how to work through issues and work together and whatever else. And then all these people were coming out saying that no, he wouldn't let any of the straight kids in. So it was basically just a club for gay boys, which already a little iffy, little whatever. So then there were issues. People said that, he had his DUI. We've talked about his DUI before. He had a DUI. There's going to be information on how and why he got that DUI today. Then we talked about the fact that he wasn't actually a head coach, even though he gives the illusion that he was Coach Walz. He was a head coach and he took these boys to victory and everything else. But that's not the case. He was an assistant coach. And then after he got his DUI, he was let go. But they kept talking about him being let go because of a DUI, even though they tried to smooth that over first. But the fact of the matter is he was let go because of complaints that were brought to the school board or the group at the school about inappropriate conduct between him and students. That's why he was let go. So we're going to get into this right now. I'm just going to go through everything here. Now, this is something I can't prove. Obviously, this is a victim coming forward and saying what has happened with Tim Walz when this victim was a 14-year-old boy from the ages of 14 to 18. Okay. Tim Walz was this guy's teacher, and they had a relationship for 4 years during high school. And this victim is coming forward. The name has not been given out, but it will be, because the victim already knows that in order for this to go where it needs to go and have the impact it needs to have, and for people to understand the severity of what could happen with Tim Walz as a vice president, he's going to have to come out with his name and be fully upfront about who he is and what has happened, right? A lot of people will say, how come this person hasn't stepped forward till now, when he was a governor, before he was a governor? And this person actually started coming out and talking about this numerous times, but everything has always been kind of shut down or swept under the rug, things like this. So let me just go ahead and we're going to jump into this here. And I have all of these in a folder. I did well this time. I separated things out because normally it's all over the place. But okay, let's go down to the very bottom here. So Tim Walz, this is the school board for Alliance High School in 1995, which is where Tim Walz was. Contrary to what Tim Walz says, the school board voted 6-0 to fire Tim Walz. Okay, we talked about this months ago, that he was let go from the school. He didn't quit. They told him to leave. Of course, they call it accepting his resignation. They're going to say that in paperwork that they accepted his resignation, but it was because he was told to resign. We know how that works. Joe Biden didn't quit. Joe Biden was told to get the hell out, to get off the Democrat ticket. He didn't resign. He was told to leave, but it has to look like he decided to step out. Same thing here with Tim Walz. He did not leave teaching of his own volition. He was told to leave. And the reason I know he didn't leave of his own volition, because he and his wife, Gwen Walz, and another male teacher all just happened to resign on the exact same day. No, all three were pushed out of this school on the same day for the same reason, and that's their inappropriateness with children. that they were teaching. So Tim Walz claimed that he left on his own and was talked into staying, which also is not true. This is the board, just so you know. And then we have the minutes from the school board meeting. I'll show you in just a minute. But this is the school board that told Tim Walz that he was done, that he had to leave, and he was not allowed to be a teacher anymore. Okay, so you have that one there. Let me get back to this, and then we're going to get into why this is a huge deal, why he was told he had to leave, why the school got rid of him. I'm trying to make sure I go in order here, in some sort of order. So this is, let's go up to the very, very beginning here. Hold on one second. Okay, so Tim Walz was a teacher. We know this. There is a gentleman on X called Black Insurrectionist who was reached out to by a victim of Tim Walz. He reached out to him because Black Insurrectionist has done a lot to help the catching people who have trafficked children, has stopped the trafficking of children, and a lot of other things. Okay, so let me try to make sure I got all this in order, because again, the timeline is still, it's just now coming out. There's a little bit more every few hours, and it's very hard to keep in contact or intact exactly which direction this goes. So this is the first email that was sent to Black Insurrectionist, and it says, hey Doc, now that Tim Walz has been picked as the VP, I think it is important we speak. Your work with child trafficked children is the reason I am reaching out to you. I have seen how you have told the stories of others. I am willing to tell you my story with Tim Walz. I became close with him and his wife, Gwen. This man is one of the biggest liars you will ever meet. He manipulated me. He did unspeakable things to me. I can give you details that nobody else can. I know you will keep my privacy. Will you hear me out? So that's one of the things. Okay. So this person reached out to Black Insurrectionists, and there's going to be people who say, why didn't he reach out to the government? Why didn't he reach out to anybody else? And do you trust them? Like, look at everything that's happened lately. Robin Stapp, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Well, look at everything that's happened lately. You have the Secret Service trying to cover up the fact that they willingly let an assassination attempt against Donald Trump happen. You've got the FBI lying about stuff. You have the sitting president and the sitting vice president lying about crap all the time. You have all this stuff coming out with Diddy at the exact same time, which is absolutely crazy to me. But for this man, I wouldn't want to trust the government to do the right thing either, especially when you're coming out against somebody who's trying to be one of the top parts of government, the vice president of the United States. Betsy, love you too, ma'am. Thank you so much. So I can understand, I can understand why he hasn't reached out to government officials before this, okay? But the fact of the matter is, there is a person coming out saying that Tim Walz sexually assaulted him, and he has very detailed timelines of this happening. And like Kamala has said since the beginning of her campaign, believe the victims. So I believe this victim, right? Why else would you want to put yourself through something like this national attention that it's going to get if you were not serious about it? I believe victims all the time until it can be proven that it's wrong. So right now, I believe this man that's coming forward until or if they can prove that something's wrong here. I believe the victim. Okay, so this is the very first DM that this person sent to Black Insurrectionist. Said, if Tim Walz is the VP pick of Kamala Harris, I have information on him that is of a personal nature, as he was a teacher of mine at Alliance High School in Nebraska. And if you want to know more, please reach out to me because I trust you, kind of thing. And Black Insurrectionist wrote back and he goes, I highly doubt Tim Walz is going to be the pick. I don't think there's any way possible she does not pick Shapiro anyway, which is what I said in the beginning. They picked Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro realized it was, tying himself to a dead horse and getting dragged around. So he didn't take the VP nomination, and Tim Walz was all that was left. Again, they didn't have time to vet him. It is what it is. So this is what happened. Black Insurrectionist had a phone call conversation with this man. And this was on August 9th. And this is a email that was sent to him. And I want to just tell you right now, there's some graphic nature in this. So just, put on your big girl panties and your big boy ears and all that stuff and pay attention. What's crazy to me is what I'm about to read to you. Tim Walz has come out numerous times and said that he doesn't believe there should be any banned books because he thinks that everybody should be able to read anything they want. I am a grown ass woman reading this thing from this grown ass man to another grown man. And even I'm like, oh, like, It's spicy. Like, it sounds spicy. That's the only way I know how to phrase this. And this is what they're considering. Tim Walz considers G-rated and should be in schools. The truth, no matter what. Look, I love your name, number one. The truth, no matter what. And that's exactly how I feel about things right now. So we're going to have this conversation no matter what, no matter how people feel, if they get triggered, if they get whatevered, we still need to have this conversation. So I want to read you this, but I've given you a heads up that it does get a little, they consider it G-rated. I don't. Okay. Says, thanks for the call. I will lay out in detail what has happened to me. I was 14 years old when I met Tim Walz. Like many normal kids, I was very confused about many things. My emotions were that of a typical teenager. Tim and Gwen Walz befriended me. Now, Tim and Gwen Walz, just side note, both worked at the same high school. They were both teachers in the same high school, okay? He says, I was a loner. They made me feel special. Tim Walz started telling me secrets about himself. He told me I could trust him with anything. I was very shy and having difficulty. Tim and Gwen extended an invitation for me to go to a concert with them in March of 1995. When we got to the concert, though, it was just Tim Walz and me. The concert was the Indigo Girls, who I knew nothing about. During the concert, he started to explain to me the meaning behind the lyrics. He started... the entire time he was explaining this, he was explaining to me that I was gay. The entire time he was explaining to me that I was gay, he was rubbing my back up and down in what I thought was a comforting gesture. Then the next thing I know, I remember feeling tired, overwhelmingly tired. The rest of the night, I am not comfortable telling you right now. I'm going to put in a letter. It is too difficult for me right now. I understand how, and then Black Insurrectionist says, I understand how difficult this must be for you. And then he goes to clarify. He's like, I just want to be clear that you were 14 years old. You're at a concert alone with your teacher, an Indigo Girls concert, which if anybody knows Indigo Girls, that was like lesbian rock, like back in the day. Like they were straight Lilith Fair, Sarah McLachlan style, whatever, girl for girl kind of stuff, right? And then he's asking him the questions. He's like, were you served alcohol? If you're feeling overwhelmingly tired, were you drinking something? Was the concert in March of 1995? He's trying to, get all the details here. And what's crazy is this isn't the one that's all not G-rated. It's a little more extreme on the next one. What's crazy here is that this is where it gets weird and sounds wrong. You think as a parent that you should be able to trust the adults in your child's life, right? You should be able to trust their teachers, their coaches, their pastors, their doctors, their everything else. And unfortunately, we keep seeing time and time again that these grown individuals cannot be trusted. But the problem here is a lot of kids are going to go through situations with adults and be scared to tell their parents. One, because they don't want their parents to feel guilty, or they don't want their parents to feel like they did something wrong. Two, a lot of these times these kids are being groomed and they don't understand that what is happening is wrong, or they're scared to come forward because what if they get in trouble? You know how emotions work. But these kids need to know that it's not their fault. When these adults do things to them that trusted adults should never, ever do, it is not the fault of the victim. It is not the fault of the child. And this guy finally coming out and having this conversation and telling people about Tim Walz and everything that happened, people are like, well, why did you wait? There are people out there, you will never know the things that they have gone through because of how it has affected them mentally. They've either stamped it down or they've held it in because telling people might make them look bad. It might hurt other people. So they keep it to themselves. And this guy for, however many years has kept this to himself. And now he's like, listen, this man could be the possible vice president of the United States. He has already gone through in his state of Minnesota and made it so there's tampons in boys' bathrooms. He's made it so that the word pedophile has been erased from any sort of sexual assault terminology. Pedophile is not the word that is used anymore. They've taken it away. They don't want it to be something. They don't want people labeled as pedophiles in Minnesota. Why would the governor of Minnesota take the word pedophile out of all context there unless he himself does not want to be labeled as a pedophile? To take that word out is crazy to me. To put in this new MAPS, minor attracted person, whatever, is absolute bullshit. And call it what it is. If Tim Walz was touching a 14-year-old boy, not only is he gay, he's also a pedophile. He's a gay pedophile. That's so many struggles this man is working with. Like, normally they say pick a struggle, pick one thing. That's a lot right there to deal with. And to put that onto a 14-year-old boy It's absolutely crazy, but they go after young, impressionable kids who don't realize that this person that they're looking up to, that they consider, a good teacher, or, a father figure, or a brother, or whatever else, they don't realize that what they're doing to them is wrong. It's not normal, and it's not something that should be happening. And so they go along with it thinking, okay, I don't really know if this is okay or not. But I see Tim Walz, and somebody said, look at how he treats his son. When he was on stage at the DNC, and Gus Walz and his daughter and Gwen Walz were on stage with him, and he yanked his son's arm, my very first thought was, that is an angry man, and I don't want to know what he does to his children in the dark, off that stage where people can't see, because he was willing to grab him and yank him that aggressively in front of all of those people. And then you have people going, oh no, he just didn't want him to run into something. That's not how you stop your child from running into something. The look on that man's face and the anger with which he pulled him is not normal. And this guy who's coming out about Tim Walz is saying that he is a very angry man, and that he would blow up on small things that were small issues, but he would blow them out of proportion, right? Okay, so look, here's the story. I'm gonna read this to you. Just heads up, okay? He says, during the concert, I became extremely tired. I don't know if it was the alcohol, which, number one, why is a grown-ass man giving a 14-year-old boy alcohol? Okay. I don't know if it was the alcohol. I don't know if something was put in the alcohol, but I remember dancing with Tim Walz. We were slow dancing. I remember his hands being inside of my pants a little. He was telling me that it was natural. He was telling me that it was okay. Now, my first thought was, why is nobody in this concert noticing a grown man slow dancing with a young boy? But then you also have to think about it, that a lot of concerts, people are drunk. They are on some sort of drugs. If it's an outdoor venue and it's dark, nobody can see these things that are going on. So again, I believe the victim. He says, after the concert, Gwen was not to be found. Tim said he would take me home, but we would stop off and get something to eat. Being 14 years old, I thought this meant McDonald's. To be honest, I thought I was having a great time. I thought I was beginning to think that I was gay. When we stopped to get food, it was a tavern, and I didn't realize until I was older there was actually a gay bar. There were only a couple of women in the entire place, but they were really not women. So, butch lesbians is basically what that comes down to. He says, I don't remember how long we were there, and I don't remember the drive back home at all. This is where it gets, just FYI, for anybody who can't hear this kind of thing, this is where it gets a little graphic. The next thing I remembered, I was naked and I was in the home of Tim Walz. He was giving me oral sex. I remember it only took seconds, maybe a minute for me to ejaculate. I thought this meant I was gay. I thought this meant I really was gay. I did not understand it was just a physical reaction. I remember being upset. I thought Gwen would walk in. He told me not to worry about it. He told me Gwen would not disturb us. He kept reassuring me that everything was okay, that this was normal, and that he was helping me see that I really was gay. The next morning, I woke up on their couch. Gwen was there. They made breakfast, and they acted like nothing happened at all. Tim took me home, and I honestly thought I had feelings for him. I thought he was showing me life. I remember feeling so confused yet so free. I thought this was part of becoming a man. I remember a definitive bump-like scar on his chest. He told me all kinds of secrets. He told me he was almost deaf from his time in the military, and he told me he had served in the Persian Gulf War. When I finally got home, I did not tell my parents anything. But I thought I had feelings for Mr. Walz. He told me many secrets about himself. At least I thought they were secrets. He told me that he was bisexual. He explained what that meant. I would continually see Mr. Walz during 1995. I spent a lot of time with him whenever I could. I can't remember the exact date, but I moved to another country in the summer of 1995. My parents were becoming suspect. In summer of 1995, he came to see me. We were drinking. We had gone out that night. We got into an argument when I found out he planned on taking students to another Indigo Girls concert. On that night, he left very angry. That is the night that he got pulled over for drunk driving. He called me and told me what happened. He told me he was going to be fired from his football job. At this time, I was in a different school district. This is when I started to learn I was not gay. This is when I began to know I like girls. I did not talk very often during 1996, but my parents had called the school board and had made a complaint. I would never admit to my parents what happened, but they told the school board they had suspicions of a sexual relationship between myself and Mr. Walz. We probably had 10 to 12 sexual encounters, and that's where that stops. So that to me is very detailed, right? Very detailed, and in the way that you recount a past story. It, to me, does not sound made up. This sounds like the victim of sexual grooming, of trusting somebody that should not have been trusted. It is absolutely crazy to me. Then you take into consideration the fact that not on top of this, you have Tim Walz going to China 33 times, I believe it was, China 33 times. You know what they have in China? Very, very relaxed laws against grown-ups and minors. That's the way I'm going to put this. Grown-ups and minors. They have very, very relaxed laws about it. They also have plenty of places that will facilitate that for you if that's what you want. Why else would Tim Walz need to go to China 33 times? He liked it so much, he even got married in China, which is, interesting also. He got married in China, in case people didn't know that. But what's crazy is Black Insurrectionist was telling, he started emailing the vice president and the president. The second that this man reached out to him, he went on to the White House website and emailed the White House, because it keeps a track, like they keep a record of it. It has to be kept. It will always be in the logs that somebody emailed something in. And he actually took screenshots of everything too. So Black Insurrectionist over on X, if you guys want to go check it out. He emailed them and he said, hey, listen, I want you to know that this man reached out to me. This is what he's saying about Tim Walz, your vice presidential pick. And this is something that that needs to be looked into, because if this is true and you're going to put this man in a spot as a vice president, what does that say to the people of our country? Basically, right? People need to know what they're voting for. Do you really think that people are going to want to vote for a pedophile, for somebody who uses the trust of children against them? So he emails the White House, and the White House, of course, doesn't respond. But approximately 7 to 10 days after my email to the Vice President of the United States, putting her on notice that Tim Walz brought a child to an Indigo Girls concert, the story was dropped. So do you guys remember when that came out? They actually said something about the concert. Hold on, let me see what this says here, guys. 1 second here. So we've got Newbie No More unveiling my journey. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And then Oz the Cat said, sounds legit. We can't allow predators like Walz into office, though highly disturbing. The truth needs to get out about sickos like him. Unbelievable. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I agree 1000%. I know that there's probably a lot of people that are discussing this right now all across different social media platforms, whether it's, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. The information needs to get out. I hope everybody is talking about it right now, because this is a huge, huge deal. But after Black Insurrectionist emailed the vice president and said, hey, listen, there's a guy saying that Tim Walz took him to an Indigo Girls concert when he was 14 years old and got him drunk and did all these different things. The news medias, the news outlets, Tim Walz and his wife Gwen took a gay student to an Indigo Girls concert in the 90s. It's literally a article that came out, but they spun it as this is, a husband and wife couple that are teachers that really do the best for their kids and want to make sure that all the kids that are their students feel loved and appreciated and seen and understood. And they tried to paint this like it was him taking this kid to a concert because, that's what good teachers do. Bro, at no point in time, if one of my male teachers had been like, hey, you want to go to a concert with me? Ew. Female teacher. Ew. Ew, you're my teacher. Why would I want to go to an Indigo Girls concert with you? Why would I want to hang out with you outside of school and outside of any sort of school-related activity? Weird. Not saying it doesn't happen. There's plenty of teachers out there that are actually amazing and do try to help students, but not all of them. And it's hard to know which one is which until it's either too late or not, So the White House knew about it. They came out and tried to make it seem like Tim Walz and his wife were just doing a good thing, trying to put it in the heads of the voters, in the minds of the voters, that they've done nothing wrong, that they're just a loving couple, and that Tim Walz is, the new masculine, and that he's just amazing and everybody should vote for Tim Walz. That's what they're trying to do. And now you have more information coming out, and I wonder if they're going to, as I call it, crickets for Kamala, if they're going to keep it quiet or if they're going to discuss this, because again, they're not discussing any of the Doug Emhoff accusations that have come out against him. They're keeping it quiet like nothing has happened, and they're spending all their time attacking Donald Trump instead of talking about the things that actually matter. If they do not discuss this whatsoever, please understand, they know that he is guilty. If they do not come out and shut that shit down, then they know he's guilty. So Randman Comedy says, although I don't doubt Tim Walz did this disgusting act, I'd be very skeptical since this information is coming from black insurrectionists. He's known to be a grifter and fake evidence. Be cautious. So I hear what you're saying. And that's why I said, I cannot prove any of this is real. But what I'm telling you is that I will believe the victim as well. I'm going to put it out there like that. I will always believe the victim. So black insurrectionist, I looked through all of his stuff, and there has been numerous times where he has been 1,000% correct. He came out, I think, a month or two before Joe Biden dropped out and said that it was going to happen. He said he will be dropping out. He will be taking his name off the Democrat ticket for presidential nomination in 2024. He will be taken off. He will not be the nominee, because he goes, I have it on fact from somebody in the White House or all that other stuff. And sure as shit, guess what happened? Joe Biden, not on the Democratic national ticket. So there's been other things that he's come out about that have been correct. We could say the same thing about Laura Loomer. You could say the same thing about Matt Walsh. You could say the same thing about Benny Johnson. You can say the same thing about mainstream media. I mean, think about it. But if you want to tell everybody that they're wrong or they're lying, then you don't believe anything that happens, and then more stuff like this happens. And I don't know if that was the correct way to phrase that, but Oz the Cat, welcome to Part of the Family. Extremely happy to have you here. So Tim Walz and this man that's coming out, there's going to be more and more coming out about it over the next few days. But what's crazy to me is, I want you to see this. They call him Touchdown Timmy. That's what they started calling Tim Walz while he was a football coach, was Touchdown Timmy, because of how inappropriately he was touching the kids. And they knew that he was sleeping with one of the kids. That's what they say. And so they named him Touchdown Timmy. I want to show you this. This is while he's in China with another teacher. That's Tim Walz holding the drink in his hand, and my brain going, I wonder what's in there. Is it soda or is there something else? And those are 3 underage boys with 3 adults. Just a very interesting picture in China when he was over there as a teacher. Not saying there's anything to it. Not a fan of his shirt. Up the yin yang. Y'all. Probably not the correct phrase to wear while people think that you are trying to sexually molest young boys while you stand there next to a young boy. I sent myself these pictures. Let me pull up my email because I need you guys to see these as well. There's so much that it's hard to keep track of absolutely everything that is coming out right now, and trying to keep everything. Nope, wrong one. Hold on. I've got like 17 different email thingies. Where is it? Here we are, live stream. Okay. So this is Tim Walz. This is Tim Walz in China holding a big fan, right? But it says here, the past year that Tim Walz spent teaching school in China was a very rewarding one. I want you to hear what he says here. No matter how long I live, I'll never be treated that well again, said the 1989 Chadron State College graduate. They gave me more gifts than I could bring home. It was an excellent experience. He enjoyed teaching because it was an excellent experience, or because he got so many gifts, which says a lot to me as well. Jocelyn, thank you very much, ma'am. So when he says that he got so many gifts, he couldn't even bring them all home, and he loves China. It's not that he loves China, it's the gifts that they give him. And what if those gifts were things that legally he could not have here in the United States without being thrown into federal prison for being a sick little fuck? Like, that's all I can think. Every time I see how many times he went back to China and how happy he was to be in China surrounded by all these young kids, it has always struck me wrong. He says here, teacher treated like a king. Hey, are the words still backwards when I show it to you here in the live stream? Just out of curiosity, because I know when it was going vertical, it was backwards, but can you guys see that, or is it backwards still? Dang it, I don't want it. Man, I don't know how to fix it for the live stream. They've changed something and it's all effed up. But anyway, it says a May graduate of Chadron State College who is teaching in China said in a recent letter to a CSE faculty member that he is being treated like a king. Treated like a king. So he's going to China. He's being treated like a king. He's getting anything he wants. He's allowed to do things there that he legally would, be put to death for here in the United States, which, hey, it's still not too late. We do have the electric chair for a reason. Again, I'm just showing you all these articles that have been out for years about Tim Walz, but are now findable if you need to look. An Alliance teacher and his bride won't forget their wedding date. They plan to celebrate by taking a few dozen high school students on 2 trips to the Far East. Tim Walz offers directions to his Alliance school basketball teams. So they're taking all these kids to China for their alliance, the high school, whatever group it was. They decided to take a bunch of kids over to China, which is still crazy to me. They said they wanted them to see the way other people live. Bro, go to the state over, like go to the next state, go farther north, farther south, east, west. You don't need to cross, oceans with underage children. It's just very weird to me. And just as a reminder, this is the day that Tim Walz got a DUI, that he tried to say that while when he got pulled over, that he was deaf and hard of hearing and that he was dizzy, and that's why he was driving the way he was, as opposed to the fact that it's because he was legally above the legal limit of alcohol, which is why he was arrested. He also tried to tell people when he was running for governor that he didn't actually get arrested, that they let him go. No, he was handcuffed, put in a cop car, and taken to the police department, which is why there is a mugshot. You don't get a mugshot if they let you go, you dumb, lying shit face. Anyway, not a fan of Tim Walz. And between him and Kamala Harris, it is the worst possible duo you could ever have to run this country. There have been some pretty crappy presidents, right? We all know that, depending on how you feel about certain presidents. There's been some pretty crappy ones, but at least all other presidents up until now, I feel, had some sort of plan, some sort of policies that they actually wanted to put in place that could possibly benefit some people, not all, obviously. But Kamala Harris has absolutely nothing. And then to put a pedophile in as the vice president, not okay with that at all. Where's this other one? So this was late last night, given a statement from the victim. Okay, the victim says, I have decided to make a public statement regarding the relationship between myself and Tim Walz. I also want to make it very clear that I was not the only victim of Tim Walz. I am hoping that others will come forward. I know of at least one other person who has come forward and has not received the publicity that I am now receiving. I want to give you some of the places that I went with Tim Walz over the course of the time I was abused, and give you some descriptive information of Tim Walz's body that may be helpful in my claims. Now, my husband and I were talking about this yesterday. And I told him, I said, he's got to come out with something that the only way he would have this information is if it's a part of Tim Walz's body that can't legally be shown out in the streets. And then I was like, well, shit, Oregon, you can walk around completely butt naked as long as it's not for sexual gratification. So who knows what Tim Walz does in his own time. But if he can give any sort of information on anything that is below the boxer shorts, then it'll be very hard for the left to try to say that this person is not a victim, that this person does not have, intimate knowledge of Tim Walz. So it says here, I went to 2 concerts with Tim Walz, an Indigo Girls concert, and in July of 1995, I attended a country concert in Omaha with Tim Walz, the band Alabama. I was one of the students who accompanies Tim Walz and others on his trip to China. So that picture that I showed you, that's the reason I showed you that picture with those 3 young males in that picture. It is highly possible that one of those 3 men is the same person who is now speaking out right here with Black insurrectionists with these words. I don't know for a fact. Like I said, the names of those kids are in that picture. This person has not released their name yet, but if this name is released and I can look back at that picture and point and say that was the kid at that time, I'm going to lose my ever-loving shit, because, it's just crazy. Okay, sorry, let me get back to where I was. I was one of the students who accompanied, when Tim Walz received his DUI, it was after an evening spent with me. I fully expect that Tim Walz is going to retaliate against me and possibly my family. He has become a powerful individual, and I can tell you from experience that Tim Walz is an extremely angry individual when he is challenged on any subject or he is perceived to lose control on anything. I know of at least 2 other students in the time Tim Walz spent at Nebraska that were taken to concerts and other events. In fact, Gwen Walz has made statements that she attended the Indigo Girls concert with myself and Tim, which was not true. It is my belief to this day that Gwen Walz was with another student at that time at the same concert, but I can assure you she was not at the concert with me and Tim Walz. And if you remember the first thing I read to you, he said that he and Tim and Gwen were at an Indigo Girls concert, but once they went to an Indigo Girls concert, but once they got there, it was only him and Tim. So this still is in perfect line with what he is saying. Gwen Walz was technically there, but she was with a different student somewhere else in the crowd. Tim Walz and this student were alone together at the Indigo Girls concert, all right? With that being said, Tim Walz has a raised scar on his chest, which to me, I'm like, okay, that's not something that I think couldn't be seen numerous other times if he's gone on vacation and has any sort of shirtless pictures or at the pool or things like that. So that one for me, I'm like, it's good that he has that knowledge, but I don't know if that's something that can't be proven by numerous other people just based off of a summer, trip to the beach or the pool. It says, where is it? I recall a Chinese symbol tattoo on his upper thigh. That's the one to me that's going to be harder for Tim Walz to say that plenty of people would know about it. Upper thigh, unless you really like some booty shorts, there's no reason why anybody outside of Tim Walz's immediate family should ever see his upper thigh. And by immediate family, I mean his wife. His children should never know what his upper thighs look like. So there's that. I remember he explained to me what it meant, but I do not recall at this time. I also remember a small scar on his left arm that was more like a soft burn. Of course, most people know he has a hearing problem. It is my understanding that has been corrected. I will be engaging an attorney and will be bringing Mr. Walz to a court of law if possible. I will be seeking full legal remedies against Tim Walz. My relationship with Tim Walz stopped being physical in 1996, but we remained in contact until 1999. I have decided that I will be contacting media members through my attorney and will give a public come forward and challenge Tim Walz if that is the route my attorney would like to go. Many people will attack my claims. Many will doubt my claims. Tim Walz and I know the truth. Between the ages of 14 to 18 years of age, Tim Walz was part of my life. It was a relationship that was unhealthy and has affected my life in some of the worst ways possible. Which again, you're 14 to 18. You don't realize at the time, a lot of times, that what is happening is wrong. When it's flipped around, it's, the boy is, sleeping with a female teacher or doing something with a female teacher. They're high-fiving each other in the locker room like it's the best thing ever. With, you have teenage girls in high school who have hot male teachers and they're like, oh man, I'd like him to be my first. I want to marry him and have his babies. Like, these are talks that young kids have because they don't realize at the time, because their bodies are going through puberty. Their minds are all over the place. They're seeing things in movies and TV shows and reading books and seeing their friends and other couples. And so they can sometimes look at these teachers and these higher figures as something that they want to be a part of. So when you have Tim Walz, Roger, thank you, Roger. So when you have Tim Walz taking advantage of that situation, knowing that there are going to be confused boys and girls out there, and taking advantage of that situation and going after them, that makes him the worst kind of human being there could possibly be. There are a handful of things that I will put my life on the line for, and an adult physically harming a child, whether it be abusively, like, beating them up, or sexually, I will put my life in between that person and that child any day of the week. I will go to jail for that child. I don't care whose child it is. Does not matter to me. A child is a child, and adults have got to learn that if they have any sort of connection to a child like that, they are a sick, twisted motherfucker. There's nothing normal about that at all whatsoever. It is not some sort of there's nothing that makes it okay for a grown-ass person to be sexually attracted to anybody under 18. I don't even understand how grown-ass men are attracted to 18 and 19-year-olds. There's something still wrong with you there. Yes, technically, an 18-year-old is legally an adult. Y'all, at 18, I was dumb as shit. I was still immature. I had no clue about anything. And just because the government considered me an adult at 18 didn't mean anything. I was still a child. Hell, at 21, I'm legal to drink. I'm still a child at 21 also. I did not have the knowledge that was needed to make adult decisions at that time. There's no way in HE double hockey sticks a 14-year-old is making the right decisions because they don't know any better. Hormones are through the roof. Everything is going bonkers in their brain and in their libido and in their groin, everywhere. They don't know what they're doing. And instead of having somebody they can go to and talk to and trust, they have somebody who uses that against them to get what they want. Tim Walz, in my personal opinion, and this is what's probably gonna get me in trouble, Tim Walz should be sitting strapped down in a chair somewhere with electric currents running through his body. So there's that. That is exactly how I feel about that. But this is the school board minutes. I want to show you the highlighted part, which again is backwards, and I'm sorry, but I am showing you so you know it's real here. This is the minutes of the Board of Education meeting on March 4th, 1996, professional leave request. It says a motion was made by Seabaum and seconded by Cornish to approve the professional leave request of Tim Walz. The motion carried unanimously 6-0. All right. Because again, instead of them saying they're kicking him out, they're going to let it sound like he resigned, because the school board also does not want that going through that small town, that community, the newspapers, the news itself, that they had a teacher that they willingly employed, who was molesting students. So of course, instead of putting in their minutes, hey, we had to fire this guy because he's a sick fucking perv. No, they have to let it say, no, we let him resign, because they have to save face. They have to cover their own butts. And that's what people do. That's what our government does. So they're going to try to find some way to sweep this under the rug, like nothing's going on, like it's not real. And their whole believe the victim is going to suddenly flip-flop and change 100%. And it's going to be, well, until you can prove it, we don't know if he's really a victim. That's what they're going to do if they do anything at all. So, but the problem here is, and I told you before, if it was just Tim Walz resigning, that would make sense. Okay, then maybe nothing happened. Maybe it's just him resigning. A motion was made by Aldinger and seconded by Moore to accept the resignations of Tim Walz, Gwen Walz, and Byron Green. Why would all three resign at the exact same time? Unless, of course, all three got canned at the exact same time, because not only was Tim Walz at an Indigo concert with a student, Gwen Walz was at an Indigo concert with a student. The same thing. So you have two sick fucks that are married, that are teaching in the school, that are taking advantage of these children. And now you have Gwen Walz out on the campaign trail reading books to kids at the library of two gay dads and their cat. You couldn't find like a book that didn't bring in sexuality whatsoever, that didn't specify if anybody was straight or gay, none of that stuff. You couldn't do it? No? Okay. That's interesting to me as well. Byron Green, I have not done my research on, but we're going to figure out who Byron Green is and exactly what he has done, because there's obviously something. Listen, there's a lot more. There is so much more that we need to discuss, but I have to be somewhere at 1:15. So we have to stop for now. Y'all, there's just so much. You know what, before this was all Tim Walz, but I want to show you something real quick that, like, seriously, the hypocrisy behind this was absolutely crazy to me. This is on my husband's channel, but I asked him to let me borrow the video because I need you guys to see this. No, wrong button. I'm trying to get the volume. I want you to hear this, if I can get this to play. Is this right? Hold on. All right, let's watch this. Just watch this.
Of course, to be with you this week as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, as we speak truth about our nation's history. Since 1934, every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never
listen to this. Listen.
Story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past, and we must shed light on it and do everything we can to address the impact of the past on Native communities today. It is an honor of...
Does she understand how incredibly stupid she is? This woman just stood up there and talked about the fact that the people who found the United States, found America, everything she has said is exactly what she is allowing to happen through this illegal immigration through our southern border. They are bringing diseases. They are stealing things. They are bringing corruption and death and everything else. Ma'am, the hypocrisy is absolutely wild with this one. How can she stand there with a straight face and read or listen through her little Bluetooth earrings, or read this entire speech that all they have to do is change a few words? It says, when I became vice president and opened up the borders, and then finish the entire speech the exact same way it was. You just take out the very beginning of, Columbus and the Americas and put in Kamala Harris and open borders. And the exact same speech goes for everything that she is allowing to happen to our country right now. Oh, the hypocrisy. Oh, the hypocrisy. And she doesn't even understand. She doesn't even see it. She doesn't even know. She is that stupid. Bless it. Bless it. That's all I've got. Listen, Squirrel Tribe, I love y'all immensely. I could be here for another hour. There's so much more. We'll do this again tomorrow, hopefully. There's so much more that's going to come out about this whole thing. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I am waiting, just waiting to see how the White House, how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz himself are going to spin this, because they're going to have to lie like they're used to doing, like crazy, in order for this to even go away. But guess what? It's not going to go away. This is going to blow up. This is going to be huge. So just wanted to bring it to your attention. We'll have more tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have a name of the gentleman who has come forward as the victim. And like I said, if he is one of those 3 boys in that picture with Tim Walz in China, that would just be absolutely crazy to me. So I appreciate you all. I did miss something that came through a minute ago, and I don't want to miss this. Y'all don't go anywhere yet. Hold on. Let me get back to where we were so I can say thank you to... there's a lot of chat in here. I appreciate y'all. I go through, just so you know, when the live stream is over, because I can't read all the stuff while we're live streaming, I go through and I try to read all of the live chat. I read all of your comments. I try as much as humanly possible. Linda, thank you very much for your support, ma'am. I try to read everything and get back to people as much as I can. So thank you for being here, for being part of the live chat, for being part of the Squirrel Tribe. Share this with people, whether it's my video or you go on X and go to Black Insurrectionist, whether it's somebody else's video on YouTube, whoever's talking about this information and is bringing you the facts as they are right now from this victim, make sure you share it out to everybody, because this needs to be heard and not suppressed, which is what media is going to try to do. So don't let it happen. Okay. Listen, I love y'all. Have a great rest of your Monday. Yeah, the 14th. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bye.